Ako po si Rachel, your favorite FILAM fangirl, and today we are going to be talking about, as you can see by the title, do you speak Filipino? Filipino and English is actually the national language of the Philippines, so that is what we're going to be talking about today. As well as what languages my family speaks, because there are a lot of dialects that I will eventually go over. Tagalog and Ilocano. My dad's mom and my dad's dad, so my dad's side, also knows Kapampangan, but I don't really know much of that. Kapampangan is not really something that I've heard a lot of all of my life. What I have heard a lot of is Ilocano and Tagalog. Mostly Ilocano, and even then I still haven't learned it enough to know the language today. So what is Filipino? Most of the history of how it became known as Filipino is what I read from this book. There is a difference between Tagalog, Filipino, and Filipino. So, Tagalog is not only a group, but it is also the name of the language. It comes from Taga-Ilog. It means from the river, Taga and Ilog. The Tagalog is one of the largest ethno-linguistic groups in the Philippines, and they were indigenous inhabitants of several provinces in Luzon, Rizal, Bulacan, Nueva Ecija, Quezon, and what is now known as the capital, Metro Manila, or Manila, however you want to say it. Manila. What you need to understand before you understand what Tagalog is, Filipino, and Filipino is, you gotta know a little bit of history about the Philippines. Thing is, everyone and their mother's country basically invaded the Philippines. To name some of the few, the Spanish actually had the longest occupancy. They were there for about 300, almost 400 years. So the Philippines was occupied by Spain, and then the United States came along, and then after the United States, the Japanese, and then the Spanish kind of came along and tried coming back, but then they couldn't, so then the Philippines became its own country. Yay! Fun fact about the Philippines, it was originally known as Las Islas Filipinas, and it was named after Spain's king, King Philip II. Once you know that, you kind of figure out like, okay, there's a difference between everything. Tagalog is the people, it is the language. Filipino is the ethnicity, and it's the name of the language, which is kind of interesting because sometimes when I'm speaking Tagalog, I don't know if I'm talking or speaking in Filipino and Tagalog. Many words start overlapping, but then it also sounds really different, which I need to bring some native speakers in here and get them to speak in their native language, because it would be really interesting to show you how it sounds. Like Tagalog people, they're very like expressive, and then Ilocano people, they sound very like sing-songy. I don't know, do you feel the same way if you're Ilocano or Tagalog, or if you've ever come across them? Do you feel the same way about that? And in Kapampangan, it's more, maybe it's just because my grandma's Kapampangan, but I feel like the tone is a lot more commanding with Kapampangan. I'm only talking about and mentioning 3 dialects right now, but there actually are many different dialects. There's Visaya. Oh my gosh, I'm like not naming anyone. Well, here's the list of all of them. There are many different dialects. I remember when I did a report in 4th grade, back when we had to go to the library to research, and I learned that there was 82 dialects. I'm pretty sure it's more than that, and probably 100 dialects at this point, all in one country. Crazy. Language policies. What happened in the past to make it go from Tagalog to Filipino to Filipino? Language policies in the past actually very heavily influenced the way Filipinos thought of languages. This is heavily influenced by the language policies that were set forth way back when. Because the Tagalog group was so large, many people spoke Tagalog. And then, after a while, that was the official language. However, when the Spanish came and ruled, Spanish was integrated into our language, and if you knew Spanish, then that just meant that you were one of the affluent, rich families. I find it really interesting how back then, Spanish was actually used for most of the documents, because affluent families who were Spanish dealt with paperwork and dealt with owning property and whatnot. Then in 1935, we changed over to make the national language Tagalog, and then in 1959, we changed the national language to Filipino. What's the difference? I still don't know. And then in 1973, both Filipino and English became the official languages of the country. Lastly, in 1987, the president went ahead and changed the national language of the country to English and Filipino. So what is Filipino? So Filipino actually, so you can see where Filipino kind of happened, where Tagalog happened, and all that stuff. What it has come to in the 80s, the reason why I'm guessing they changed it is because they wanted to include all of the Filipino dialects as the national language. So all in all, the most recent policy for the Philippines is Filipino and English. Mainly because Filipino includes all dialects, all 175 dialects. Another fun fact, 4 of which of those 175 dialects are actually have no known speakers anymore. It's like a dead language. Really sad that it hasn't been learned. I'm guessing it's obviously documented because we know that there's 4 unknown speakers for it, but it's just crazy. How are we going to decipher this? I don't know. The idea of languages for the Philippines always has fascinated me, mainly because I think about the way there are so many different dialects. It's kind of like living in the United States where not everyone, a lot of people, because they are coming from different backgrounds, have different languages in their families. For example, I went to a school where Koreans spoke Korean, my Vietnamese people spoke Vietnamese, my Chinese people spoke Chinese. Everyone had their language, and then there was me who didn't know anything about the Filipino language, right? Do you speak Filipino? No, I really don't. I know when to eat. And usually I only know when to eat because everyone else is standing up to go eat. Aside from that, I am so glad I'm learning the language now, because when you learn a language, you not only learn the way a culture communicates with each other, but you're also learning the actual culture. You basically have the power to learn more about the people who are living in it.
Does that even make sense? I don't even know right now.
Salamat sa inyo sa lahat. Mahal kita straight from the puso. Bye!